Welcome back to the Life of Tash Mia. I'm Tash. Today I've got another solo episode for you, and it's about wellness. It's something I've talked a lot about on my Instagram because wellness really is so important to me. And I kind of see myself as a bit of a wellness dom, if you say. If you're not feeling great in your body, in your mind, or in your spirit, then I don't really think much else is going to go really well for you in life. So it needs to be a real foundation of where we live from. My approach to wellness is it's something that's in every day. It's something that I wake up and it's one of the first things I do is think about how am I going to make this the best day possible? And that really comes down from my wellness habits that I've implemented over the years. Wellness for me, being a dominatrix, is really important because I'm with clients and I'm encouraging them to be the best versions of themselves. So I believe I really need to lead by example. And I believe that you're the best version of yourself when you are well and looking after your mind, your body, and your spirit. So my wellness journey has been a journey. I haven't always got it right, and there's things that I've really had to change and adapt over the years. I'm going to start and just break it down into the sections that I really feel make up my wellness and my life. And I'm going to start with exercise because that was probably my first real introduction into wellness. And I was kind of just put into it from a very young age when I was a kid. My parents put me and my sister into what we have here called Little Athletics. And I probably would have been about 5 or 6 when I started. And it's something that you go to every Saturday morning and it's run, I think maybe around 4 or 5 hours. So it's a big chunk of your day and you go and do all sorts of different athletics, running, high jumping, long jumping, all that kind of stuff. You do races. And so that got me into fitness, sport, moving my body from a really young age. From that, I went to a school where there was a huge variety of sports. So I was in a lot of sports teams, basketball, hockey, tennis. I did swimming, I did running, I did a lot of sports as I grew up. Now, I'm not actually that drawn to sports as a person, especially if you met me now. I don't follow any sports. I don't play any sports anymore. But it really gave me an awareness about my body, and it really gave me the appreciation for when I'm feeling strong and have stamina. So I'm really appreciative of that foundation from a young age to get me into it because it set that foundation for me to view myself as someone who moves and someone who likes to train. So as I got older in my school years, I just eventually started dropping more and more of the sports I was doing. Like first I think it was tennis, then it was hockey, and then I was just gently dropping them all. But what I did do at the time in my later high school years is I joined a gym instead. And this was before like gyms and weight training were even talked about or trendy. And I still wanted to be fit and I still wanted to move my body. To be honest, I probably wasn't that effective at the gym back then. Don't really think I knew much about what I was doing. We didn't have the access to internet or the information that we have these days. I didn't understand about, progressive overload or things like that. But, doing something is better than doing nothing 100%. So then as I got older, I was going to the gym. I was also a very keen runner my whole life. I was quite good at middle to long distances. And so with the encouragement of my sister, who had gone into Ironman and triathlons by this stage, she encouraged me to start doing marathons. So we did a few half ones together and then I did a few full ones. So I was running, I think probably about 70, 80 Ks a week. Plus I was also going to the gym. I eventually did stop doing marathons because the toll of that kind of extreme training takes on your body. I was just getting injured all the time. So I eventually had to stop running altogether for a period of time. But it's something I did actually have come back to maybe a few years ago now, and I just run a couple of times a week, half hour, 45 minutes max, and that kind of keeps my body in check. And the real reason why I love running is it's time for me to just like let my brain go, tune out, listen to a podcast, maybe some music if I'm in the mood for it. But I also randomly get really good ideas sometimes when I'm running, and so I quickly have to get out my notes and write them down. And I think the most important thing with exercise, as long as you're obviously not getting injured from it, is as long as you like doing it, that's the exercise that's going to be the best for you. I still weight train 4 days a week I weight train, and I go to a Pilates reformer, which I love. I used to kickbox, which is something I want to get back into. I used to kickbox for many years with a really amazing trainer at a fight gym, but unfortunately I moved. But I think the point is that just moving your body is what's important. At one stage, I think I probably was overtraining when I used to run, 5-6 days a week and then be in the gym in the afternoon. I definitely went through a stage of overtraining. And I think it's important to realize that that end of the extreme is not good either. But now I'm really trying to take the approach of listening to my body. And if my body wakes up, especially if it's the week before my period or something, and it's like, fuck this, I do not feel like going for a run today. Well, I don't go for a run. I'll just go for a walk. So I think as you get older and you realize that things change, that you really need to listen to your body and what it needs and serve it what it needs and not try and fight it. And that's something that I've really had to learn probably in the recent couple of years, is that I'm going to have to adapt my training as I progress my birthdays. I think when it comes to exercise as well, mindset is a big thing. As I said, I identify myself as someone who works out, someone who loves to train. And because I have that mindset, it just kind of sets me up for success, I believe. I think if people are telling themselves like, I'm just not athletic, I'm whatever myriad of self-talk they're doing in not maybe a very proactive or positive manner, it's not going to help them. So I think really getting your mindset around, I am someone who likes to train, or I am someone who likes to move my body, I am someone who likes to go for a walk. I think that everyone can find some way to move their body, no matter what method it is. I think it's just about moving. So the next kind of category I lead on to there is probably nutrition. And again, it's not something that I've always got right, but it's something that I actually had to get quite knowledgeable and aware of from quite a young age. When I was 17, I started getting attacks in my stomach, and how they would manifest is I'd wake up generally in the middle of the night with incredible pain in my stomach area, to the point where I was crippled over on a bathroom floor, extremely hot. So I'd have to take all my clothes off in so much pain. And now that I've got a daughter, I can say that it's worse than contractions. It's extremely painful. The first time I had one, luckily, I was at home with my mom, who tried to take me to hospital, but I couldn't move, so I couldn't get into a car. Now, the next bit is completely not sexy. You then at some point have to go to the toilet, and then it will pass about 45 minutes later. So what was happening is they call them IBS attacks, so irritable bowel syndrome, which is AKA we don't know what the fuck is wrong with you term I've since learnt. But basically my intestines had something in them, or they thought they at least had something in them that they needed to get out. So my brain was sending a message, you need to pump something out. And so your intestines start pumping too fast, and that's the pain. And then that's why you eventually have to go to the toilet. So I was having these attacks. I was getting a lot of bloating. I had a lot of pain in my stomach. By the end of every day, I just was not feeling great. So I was referred to a gastroenterologist who did the up the butt camera, which is a colonoscopy. And I got my IBS diagnosis, which, as I said, it doesn't really tell you much. They told me to go gluten-free. I've been gluten-free since I was 17. I since have found out I do have the celiac gene. And then I just had to kind of learn what my triggers were in the diet. So certain foods would trigger me, even really healthy foods like capsicum or mangoes. It wasn't always like what you'd think is bad food. And then things like preservatives, artificial colors, artificial food colors and flavors, all those types of things, which again, looking back now, I mean, that's all the rage that we talk about to avoid those things. I've been avoiding them for, 20 years because I had to in order to feel well. The interesting thing, I think, is when we do think about food and our gut and that system, is that my symptoms started, as I said, when I was 17. And what happened at 17 is my parents were going through quite a not very amicable divorce, let's say. And so it was quite a stressful time. And I think now we know there's a very strong link between the brain and the gut. And we can see that those symptoms probably resulted from a very stressful period of my life. So I have always been very careful with my nutrition and what I eat, and I've always eaten a very clean diet, but pretty much because my choice was either do it or feel like absolute crap. And this way for, most of the years following, I felt less crap, not amazing, but definitely a lot better. Then it was probably a couple of years ago, my symptoms were probably flaring up a bit. I was, again, not feeling great every day in the stomach. And so a friend of mine luckily works for one of the leading clinics here in Sydney and got me into one of the top gastroenterologists. Luckily, I was able to get in with this woman because the person they had referred me to her from my GP before I went and saw her did the routine choke and poke, they call it, so the camera up the butt and down the throat again. And the results were, there was like some inflammation in your small intestines. Maybe it's the start of Crohn's disease, but it's not really bad enough to put you on autoimmune suppressing medication for the rest of your life. So just come back in a year. And what they didn't tell you, or what they don't tell you, is those forms of an endoscopy and colonoscopy miss out 2 meters of your small intestines. And so when I went to this other doctor, because my friends were like, I'm sorry, but those results are absolute crap, she did a thing called a pill cam test, which is a camera you swallow and then it tracks the whole inside of your body, obviously. And what the other doctor had seen was the start of basically 2 meters of like scratches all down the interior of my small intestines, which if I had left for a year would have turned into Crohn's disease. And instead I was given some medication because I had a kind of a miscommunication between my brain and my gut that was still telling my gut there's something in there you need to get out, but there's nothing there. And it was just corrected, I think, with 4 months of taking a medication. She also then looked at other things, more food intolerances through a breath test thing. So I now understood really more about the foods, more natural foods I really need to be avoiding to feel better. And I think this was a really big lesson of only you care about your health, and it's up to you to look after it, because the local GP or whoever you're going to see, and even some specialists, as I found out, they're not going to do it for you. And they're not always going to get it right. And if you're not feeling good, you're the one that needs to be persistent with finding out and getting the answers that you need. And so I think this has really led me to being more proactive with my health. And recently I started seeing an integrative GP. So that's someone who is a normal GP, but they're also trained in a holistic manner. And they looked at, Eastern and Western medicine generally. They look at the connection between different symptoms. And it's a much more holistic approach to your health. I went to originally because I just wanted to get my hormones tested, because I'm entering into, the next phase of womanhood. And I wanted to see where I am right now. So I know that when they change, what that's going to be like. And to get your hormones tested at your local GP seems to be, no one wants to do it. They're like, oh no, like it's a waste of time. And I'm like, I want to get my hormones tested. Why is this so difficult? So luckily with this integrative GP, I did a Dutch hormone test. And then we did extensive blood work. I don't think I've ever had so many vials of blood taken in my life. And I got my results actually only a few weeks ago, and I came back that I have Hashimoto's disease and I have adrenal fatigue. Who knows how long I've had them for, because no other doctor had ever bothered to test or look for it. My sister and my dad do have hashies, so I guess it's not a huge shock. But it was information that I probably would have liked to have had as soon as I could. Now, my levels aren't crazy high, and I'm trying to manage it through lifestyle and supplementation for now. But as I said, I really had to find my way to get those diagnoses. If I had just, gone to my GP every year or every 6 months, I don't think I would have ever been equipped with that information, which means the things that I have would have progressively got worse to the point where I would not have probably had a choice but to go on medication. So as I said, it's really important that we take control of our health, because you're the only one who's going to be the advocate for yourself. The next section of my wellness little life is therapy. And I put this one next because it really is something that is high on my priority list. I've seen my psychotherapist for the last, I think about 9 years. And I kind of put finding a therapist kind of like finding a life partner because the first one is not always going to be the right one, and the first few might not be the right few. And I think this is where maybe some people get put off from therapy. They might have just gone to a psychologist or someone they were recommended by their GP or a friend, and they get there and it's just not a very good fit. And that's why I think it's really important that it could just be the person that's not the right fit for you, not therapy as a whole. Also, there's different types of therapy. I go to a psychotherapist because I found I didn't really like psychologists that much. They didn't really fit me. And so I was really lucky. It wasn't the first person I've ever seen. I think I've seen about 2 or 3 other people, and then I found her. And the addition to my life of having her in my life and going to therapy has been enormous. It has made me a better human. It's made me a better mother. It's made me a better wife. It's made me a better friend. It's made me a better dominatrix. It's made me better in every aspect of my life. And it's one of the things I'm actually really proud of myself, because I have done a fuck ton of self-work and I continue to do so. And I really pat myself on the back for sticking it out and through doing it, and for not being afraid to confront things that I could have just shoved down or try to ignore. And I do that in my life. If there's something there, I will confront it head on. And I don't think I would have been able to do that without the support of such an amazing therapist. So for me, therapy 100% always the way. I think through therapy, I realized how much the mind is such a deterrent of wellness and how we feel. As I said, like exercise and nutrition was something I had to get into my wellness routine quite young, because exercise was from my parents. They got it into me just by chance at a young age. And nutrition, I was having a lot of health problems with my digestion and things at a young age. So they were kind of not forced on me, but they were circumstantial that I just got into them. But the mind was one that I wasn't naturally drawn to or really taught a lot about or at all during school. And it wasn't really something in my household. But I think through therapy, that led me on to things like meditation. And meditation now for me is a daily non-negotiable. And when I mean I start my day with wellness, that's what I mean. I start my day with meditation. It's the first thing I do when I wake up. I open the blinds up. I actually do it lying in my bed most of the time and just have the light coming in. And it sets my mind in the right frame for how I want it to be. Now, I don't always stay in that mind frame for the rest of the day. Things go wrong. I'm not floating on clouds. But I think if that is the first thing that you can do for yourself, the first thing in your day, you're already going to be off to a better start. I think we have got meditation wrong. I certainly got it wrong for so many years because I did not identify myself as someone who would meditate. I was like, that is not for me. I'm not a meditator. I used to get crazy to just be sat quietly with my thoughts. I'd go insane. And I'm like, it's just not me. It's just not me. And then I realized that the art of meditation was the practice of being able to bring my mind back. And I don't think I probably had a meditation where I haven't had to bring my mind back at some point on multiple times during the meditation. And I think, we have this pressure that you've just got to sit there and zen out, and then you fail if you think about something else. And that's just completely missing the point. It's the practice of being able to bring your mind back, because that means that we have control over our minds and we have more control over our thoughts. And I think that was something I really had to learn, and meditation helped me with, is that I don't have to believe every thought that enters my brain. I used to think that if I thought it, it meant it was a fact. And then I realized that's not the case. I can actually choose my thoughts and I can choose what to believe. And so things such as self-talk have become really important to me. Again, I am not perfect in this, and it's something I'm actually trying hard even now to correct. When I get that negative self-talk, I really try and to either correct it with something more positive or just tell it to fuck off. If I can't replace it, just, get the fuck out. But it is something you need to practice. It is something you need to work at. And then I guess, with meditation, it is a lifelong journey. I really believe it's quite connected to my health as well and my stress levels. So that's probably another reason I see it as a non-negotiable for me, because it is so connected to how you're going to be feeling well in every other of those areas. Another thing that is really vital in my wellness life is affirmations and manifestation. And if you follow me on my Instagram, you'd know that occasionally I post the little affirmation or daily intention cards that either me or my daughter draw from the pack. And I just love it because it kind of sets me, it's like mindset training. That's what I kind of see affirmations at. It's training how I want my mindset to be. I want my mindset to be more positive. I want my mindset to be more productive. I want my mindset to be thinking in a way that is putting me on a better path. And I love to involve my daughter. I really think it's actually important to get kids into this quite young. She actually has her own little pages of kids' affirmations I think it's called Words of Kindness, yeah. And she reads them out every so often, and I just think it's so beautiful, because I think it's important to train our minds as young as possible, because it's just going to set them up better when they get older. And, kids do what they see. It's why I work out in front of my daughter sometimes. It's why I take her to Pilates sometimes, because, they're going to do what they see. And that's the same with affirmations. If she sees me doing it and she sees me living it and she sees me trying to be, doing positive self-talk, then that's what she's going to repeat as she gets older. So I think really setting our kids up for their wellness journey from a young age is really impactful. With manifesting, again, I feel this is something that's coming more on trend and in mainstream. I've actually always been a natural manifester. I didn't really realize that's what I was doing, but from quite a young age, I could think about things quite intensely and they would come true. I didn't really know what I was doing back then. So sometimes I was manifesting things that weren't right for me. Now I'm definitely much more aware of it. So I've tried to change the way I manifest to things that I think are going to be best for me. And I put it in a way that I really ask the universe to help me with it. I am quite a spiritual person. If you've followed me or listened to other podcasts, you probably picked that up. I'm not religious, but I do believe in following the universe. I do believe that we can get in touch with the spiritual aspect of life and what's beyond. And manifesting and meditation and the words of affirmation, to me, just link all in that together. And for me, that really is how I connect with this spiritual aspect of my life. The next one is huge, but I'm not so good at it, and that's sleep. Sleep, I think, is the 2024 wellness word. Everyone seems to be talking about sleep. I have struggled with sleep for quite a few years now. I can't really remember when it started, but I have definitely struggled with sleep for many years. There was a period in my life where I wasn't really prioritizing sleep enough, and I think that kind of got me into a really bad sleep habit. So now what it's about for me is sleep hygiene. I went to a sleep clinic last year. There was no obstructions or anything. I have had sinus problems in the past, but they're gone now. And it really came down to sleep hygiene. And I think we don't want to admit it because it's easiest to do. Well, it's the easiest to say, but really hard to do. And that is trying to go to bed at a good time and getting up at a good time and consistent. That it's around the same time every night and it's around the same time every morning. And it's not fun. But unfortunately, that's what seems to work the best for me. And I'm really trying to implement that more and more. And it kind of might seem like it's a bit boring and antisocial, but I'm just trying to flip myself into a day person. I'm still trying to work out how I can flip the kink side of my life into day, but we'll get there. And I've saved the best for last for my wellness. And to me, that's relationships and sex. And that is part of wellness for me. For me to feel my best and my most well, I need to be spending time with my family as a family and with my daughter and with my husband separately. If I'm not doing that, I'm not going to feel my best self because I'm not going to feel my most complete. So I think it's really important to make sure that you give enough time to the relationships that matter in your life. And to me, sex is one of the things that matters a lot. So I always make sure that I have time, not just for sex, but for connection with my husband, for date nights, for talking about things, for having our monthly check-ins. To me, if that part of my life is going well, then I'm going to be well. And my sex life is not just with my husband. I'm not talking open here. I'm talking about pleasure with myself. And I don't believe that you can be completely well, especially as a woman, if you're not taking the time to connect with yourself and to feel pleasure. So that's something else that I really prioritize and focus is to make sure that I'm tapping into myself, doing whether that's self-pleasure practice. That actually could even just be like reading a book. It can be whatever brings you pleasure in your life. It doesn't have to always be sexual. I recommend it sometimes though. And that's the way that I feel the best in my world. So I hope you took a few little tips and tricks into maybe incorporating some of the wellness aspects into your life. That's definitely where I am at with my journey. And as always, stay kinky.